Hello and welcome to Empires of Aether. We've got another spicy round for you guys featuring the Xenairs, the Channy, the Blue Shadow Stanny, and me, the developer himself, playing around. It's been a while since I've gotten the chance to play, and here we are taking a look at a board that is very similar to one that has been played in the past. That's just kind of how it shook out. Lots of food in various corners, different bosses on the board though. One of the new features on this board is Felnir the Cerberus. I don't know why I always struggle to say that. I always try to say Cerebrus. Cerberus! Which, just as he was the gatekeeper to hell, he is a gatekeeper to whatever tile you get to place him on once you defeat him. So sitting at 60 health, he's going to add 40 defense to one of your own tiles. He just sits there resolute. He cannot move. So ideally what you're looking to do is try to put him on one of these star tiles or perhaps a really, really powerful landmark tile, something like that. But no offensive capabilities whatsoever. And so we roll our dices, us four players. Xenairs ends up with the lowest. I end up with the second lowest. And then Stanny, second. Channy, first. And we go through our bands. And Channy, very terrified of the Blood Nation and what it looked like Stan was able to do in the last game. And I don't blame him. Blood was definitely looking super strong. Blood was out of there. And then Staniel, Blue Shadow, gets rid of Arcane. And then I myself, I get rid of Air. If I ever get the chance to play, I almost always get rid of Air. That's just the most versatile nation. And I don't always want to play it. I definitely have my mindset on what I want to play this game. Looking at the corners here, there's no weak corner. You could mention this one down here, right? This desert, this swamp, that sort of thing. That's two weaker tiles directly adjacent to you, but good rainforest there. I don't think it's a weak corner whatsoever. And so none of these corners are at a disadvantage. Now, this one, heavily food favored, and so that is why Zach gets rid of water. Sees that if he's going to be picking his corner last, he's probably not going to end up with this food-based corner. And so that's 3 lakes consecutively in which a river could take them to an early portal, something like that. You've even got the desert at the middle for the Water Nation to turn into an oasis. So definitely a really, really good final ban there. So notice we got 2 of the newest nations banned and 2 of the first nations banned. That's honestly not uncommon in today's iteration of the game. So Channy gets to take his nation first. He does take the Earth Nation, and we'll go into their abilities shortly. But the Earth Nation is going to go take a trip down here to this corner, right? Taking the heavily mountain-based corner. He's got mountains at all options here, but 3 mountains, just direct access in the corner. Hard to turn that down as the Earth player. Then we've got Stanny, who, when he can't play Blood, does favor Magma. He likes it. Got that good late game pop on Magma now. I think they're a really, really powerful nation with recent buffs and all that. And he takes up to the top left corner. Nothing wrong with that. If anything, I'm kind of surprised he didn't take this up here. This food-based corner, because you've still got the mountains, right, for your building materials. You've got a couple of cheaper tiles adjacent to your capital that you can turn into good volcanoes. But here you've got mostly expensive tiles. Your first cheap tiles are both star tiles, so they're going to be in contention. So you're not going to want to turn those into volcanoes because there's a great chance you're going to lose them. And then my goal for this game, which in this video, we have the unique perspective of we only get to see, what cards I'm holding and whatnot. We're only going to get to see the other people's cards once they're played. And so I'm going to really be able to take you into, my approach to a certain game. And I really want to see a Poison win. Poison is a newer nation that hasn't actually gotten a win yet. It has never won. And so I'm really trying to get it to win. It's really good at making people, it's really good at putting people in a bad position, making them, struggle to win. But Poison struggles to win themselves in this current iteration of the game. So that's where we're sitting at. And then Zach, going back to his old tried and true Lightning, which this is a very similar looking corner to what he won a couple videos ago in which he was playing Lightning. So let's see if he can get essentially a repeat effort here. So very heavy food base. I think Lightning is an awesome pick here. He was definitely shocked for this to be the last corner available, and he did outright say that. And so we'll take these elements off the board because no one's playing them. So let's show you what their abilities are and what everyone took. Here we are with the ability lineups of what each player chose, and we of course are going to go in the reverse order in which the turns are going to take place. So starting it off with Z and Airs. I really actually like ending up with the low roll. Yeah, you might not get your first dibs on the element that you wanted to play, but you can pick the absolute best element for your given situation. And I think Zach did really, really well with his, obviously I had to go with this corner, but chose a very food-heavy nation to go with it. So really, really solid choice here. So let's look at Lightning's abilities here. With a new change to their passive, they can train 5 soldiers per barracks in Tier 1, which is the only nation that can do this. And then their Tier 1 abilities, pretty straightforward. And we'll talk about the implications and how these abilities interact with the other nations here in just a second. Thunderclap, really good staple. As we just said, this is a very food-heavy base corner. And so he might not even invest that much into building materials. He's going to invest a ton into soldiers, and he's still going to be on pace with everyone else. So that's pretty massive. And then these two, you can't go wrong taking them. You're always taking this. And then this is just removing an RNG aspect of the game. But on top of that, it interferes very positively for Zach in regards to me. And so we'll talk about that here in just a second. Then their Tier 2, I think it is the 3 best choices, especially with the changes to the game. You don't necessarily need your general to be able to train soldiers anymore. This card is, in all honesty, probably going to get tuned down a little bit. Lightning is already heavily aggressive, especially with this Command Thunderstorm combination with Blitzkrieg Warfare. Incredibly powerful Tier 2 swing, especially when you've got Thunderbolt, which is going to get rid of any defenses in your way. So you're coming with a massive amount of soldiers with, attack buffs, and you're getting rid of defenses in the way. So it's a pretty strong combination. So in all honesty, Lightning's Tier 2 might be toned down here pretty soon. And then you've got an awesome collection of Tier 3 cards where they can attack with the same soldiers consecutive times. Excellent card. Excellent passive here in Coulomb's Law. Because Lightning, without this Command Thunderstorm, they have to have a weather event to get attack bonuses. And so they struggle to compete in Tier 3 with other nations that have racked up tiles that benefit their troops. And so like we've said in the Lightning introduction video and games past when Lightning's been played, Lightning is not trying to go to Tier 3. They are trying to stay in this window right here and win within Tier 2. And then we've got Chain Lightning, which with how many troops are on the board now with the current stage of the game and how accessible soldiers are, don't have to feed them anymore. This is a great card because armies are everywhere in the late game. Then we get to me on the Poison Nation, where there's not so many choices. The only one that we get rid of is the Tier 1 Dipped in Venom card, which is just, in all honesty, not a very good card. But Tier 3, we get that Dipped in Venom applied to every defense, which is really, really good. It's a sort of casualty effect, where if I lose a tile, the enemy will lose soldiers equal to the amount of soldiers that they were fighting against. So if I have 4 soldiers against their 8 soldiers, they will still lose 4 soldiers even when I lose that tile. So it's a sort of casualty effect. Everything else, though, is a disruptive factor against my opponents. We've got Handle with Gloves, which is going to force them to ditch their advantage cards. Man-Made Plague, which is going to force me to ditch my own advantage cards with the benefit of placing the Plague Map Condition card, which is a weather event that has every other opponent at the table roll a dice and lose that many soldiers. But this is really, really cool in that it's going to double that effect. So that means every opponent is losing between 2 and 12 soldiers on the turn that I choose to enact this effect. How is this sort of countered by what Zach has done? Well, if I play Man-Made Plague and he activates Command Thunderstorm on that same turn, that's 2 turns before Plague is ever going to hit. So it might not be hitting at the opportune moment. So really, really interesting interaction there. And then I can get a guaranteed extra swamp tile. When you look at this corner, yes, you've got the Rainforest 2 tiles away in every corner, but you got 2 really weak tiles directly adjacent to you. Of course, Poison loves the swamp tiles, but I love having that extra cheap tile there because I know I'm going to convert it to a swamp anyway. So I should probably be converting to 2 swamps on turn 1. Poison is a more food-based nation. Yes, they need the building materials to level up and, fortified tiles to maintain grasp on it, but they certainly want more food than building materials. And so if I'm going to get rid of these cheap tiles and I've got Rainforest to supplement everything else on the back end, I feel like I'm sitting pretty. And then my Tier 2, absolutely devastating combination with Overcultivated and Social Distancing. I can swing the state of the board, and whoever I'm aggressing upon, as Poison is a Tier 2 aggressive nation, I can to convert the tiles to something that they do not want. So I can cripple their economy, I can cripple their defenses as well. And then multiplying like rats, it synergizes beautifully with our nation passives, which is our general gets to place 2 free barracks once we get to tier 2. On top of that, we can sell advantage cards for 5 food or 5 BM. Very, very powerful effect that I haven't seen utilized that much. And so that is something that I was going to try to prioritize in this game. Then we get to tier 3, which, yes, the cards are good. I think the cards are good. But Poison is another one of those nations, just like Lightning, where we want to stay in this tier 2 window to win the game. We're not going to be able to compete with the likes of Earth or Magma in the late game. Then we get to my brother playing Earth, who is going to go third here. And he's going with different abilities than he took last time. He played Earth in the last published video. Came very, very close to winning, in my opinion. If Xenairs didn't win the turn that he did, I do believe it was Cheney that was going to take it in the next turn. Quite easily, actually. But I like this pick of, we get a free mountain tile here, which is not always useful. I think his tier 1s are the exact same as last time. But he takes the Eating Rocks card, which is not always the best. But the reason why he does is because he's going to have 4 adjacent mountain tiles to him once he utilizes that free one. So I would anticipate that he goes to this desert, this star tile, converts that to the mountain probably. And then once he has that, that's just a ton of building materials. And so he can get a ton of soldiers out there. So I really, really like that pick. And then the other 2, can't go wrong with it. And then our 3, we're getting more mountains. We are moving in. And then we are also getting a soldier for every structure that we have. And we know that this is probably their most powerful tier 3 card. And this is exactly how Cheney was going to win in the last game if he was able to go to tier 3. So let's see if he can manage to do that this game. Then we get to Magma. Magma, pretty straightforward choices as well. Justin actually was the one that ended up getting to pick first. I think I said in the first part of this video that it was Cheney that picked first. It was actually Stan. And looking at this corner and him picking Magma, I don't think it's the best choice. Magma, yes, wants a good balance, but in the end, you really don't need that much food. You need food to make volcanoes, and you need food to advance to the next ages. And this is not a very... It's fairly balanced, right? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. There's just something about this corner that doesn't feel like it's Magma benefited here. So we'll see what he can do with it. And so looking at our tier 1, we're getting a free volcano, but then we have that passive for 5 food and 5 BM. I can convert any owned tile into a volcano. Magma wants to get to that sweet spot of 3 volcanoes owned, because when they get to tier 3, that's essentially 2 armies being produced for free every single turn. And then if you've got that happening for you, you don't need food anymore. I don't need food to train additional soldiers because I'm getting armies every single turn. And so one of these new win conditions that's been added to the game is to own 10 armies simultaneously. Magma is certainly a nation that can competitively do that, along with Earth at this board. So we've got 2 late game nations, I would say, in Magma and Earth, and let's see how they can square off against 2 more aggressive nations in Poison and Lightning. So who do you got? Do you have Xenairs, who's won the last 2 games posted on YouTube, playing Lightning? He's already won with Lightning on this YouTube channel so far. Can he do it again? Is it the creator himself? Me! Moi! Poison. A nation that is yet to achieve victory. Or my brother, trying it again on the Earth Nation. Or Staniel Cazzola, who is banned from his Blood Nation. And going for Magma. This is, I believe, the only element that he's actually won on. So he's familiar with the nation. He likes the corner. I'm not sure if I do. Can he do it? Oh my goodness. Throw it down in the comments. Let's get into the action. Jumping into the action here, remember that me, as the developer, I am playing in this game. I cannot see other people's cards until they are played, and so that's why you're going to see the hands blacked out. We're only going to be able to zoom in on as many cards as are played in the game. Another thing to mention that is kind of fun about this is we added some new weather events. We added some new advantage cards, roughly 10 of each, and so we're really hoping that they get into the action here. We've got about 120 advantage cards in the game right now, and I believe 65 weather events right now. So hoping they can shake up the game. We already mentioned our new boss tile, Felnir, the Cerberus. Said it right the first time there, no hesitation. Let's get into the action here. We're kicking it off with Zach. Opts to buy the forest, so he goes to 7 and 7 with that. Trains a soldier, goes to 4 and 7 after that. So he can actually afford the lake, but he's sitting pretty with 7 extra building materials. So he trains 2 soldiers and goes ahead and goes for a resource building on that forest. I get the reset advantage card, which definitely not good for the early game, but the cool thing about Poison is that you don't care about getting crappy advantage cards early on because you've got that sell back feature, and also your tier 1 plague card, you need advantage cards in your hand that you're tossing away. So I'm not feeling bad about getting a bad advantage card here. Like I said, bad to get in the early game because it requires you to have a full hand of advantage cards to even utilize it, which is not something that Poison is going to be able to, confidently do. And so, like I said, I like having these cheap tiles here. I go ahead and construct a barracks right away, and I buy the swamp and the desert. And what I should have done is I definitely should have converted this first desert into a swamp. Not really sure why I didn't. Perhaps it was just because, I was moderating the game as well and, talking to people. But definitely should have converted it, so I missed out on a couple of food. I know we convert it in the second turn, but we missed out on a couple of food here. So we go to Earth, drawing their advantage card, and pretty straightforward for them. You gotta imagine that they're going for the mountain and either the lake or the field. It doesn't matter which way they're gonna go. I would imagine that they pressure on the short side because they should probably anticipate that Poison is going to aggress upon them. As, like I said, it is the short side. Lightning is going to struggle to come down this coastline. It's extra tiles in length, and also you've got this boss tile that you have to go around. So Channy, as always, likes to customize what pieces he is utilizing there. He does buy that mountain that's adjacent to his capital along with that field tile. So exactly what was anticipated. All right, let's see what Justin does. Justin also has the potential for a good 10-10 Xenairs opener. That's going to be the mountain and the lake, and that's definitely the correct move here. So you got 5-5 for Justin, 5-6 for Earth. I spent next to no food. I only spent a total of 3 food last turn, so I'm sitting at 12 food and 7 building materials. But unfortunately, the weather event is termites, which is going to cut all building materials just after turn 1 in half, so expansion is going to be slowed, which I believe this is the second game in a row that this happened. It was the first weather event drawn. And these decks are shuffled every single game, so it's just unfortunate. Unfortunate that it wasn't a new weather, and you can see we are, reshuffling that deck. We are making sure that we're getting some new stuff in there. Right? Xenairs going to 6 and 5, because actually this was a rainforest that he purchased last turn. So he actually shouldn't have been able to purchase 2 soldiers here, so that was a mistake on our part in that game. Xenairs going ahead and drawing an advantage card here, and looking at his resources, we said he's at, 6 and 5, something like that. So expansion not looking too good. He could expand down this coastline, put some pressure on the short side on Magma. As we said, Magma is a late game nation, and so they are particularly susceptible to that early pressure here. And then me as the Poison Nation, I'm putting my cards out there because Xenairs and Stan, they said that they wanted to read it. Weren't familiar with all their abilities. Obviously feeling the pressure from the developer being in their game. Right? Rightly so. Rightly so. So let's see what Xenairs chooses to purchase here. Is it going to be the lake or the mountain? He can purchase either. Doesn't actually purchase... Oh, no, he purchased this coastal lake over here. And then moves that soldier back into the rainforest. So I do immediately convert that desert into a swamp, which was a mistake, admittedly, last turn. It should have been a swamp in turn 1. Absolutely should have been a swamp in turn 1. Because I'm getting the same building material output with less food if I leave it as a desert. So that's not too good there. The advantage card that we drew this turn is the Just Say No advantage card, which did make an appearance last game. It essentially allows me to negate any advantage card used against me. But one of Poison's passives is that in battle, nations can only use 1 advantage card against me. So this is not that valuable to me either. So that's 2 fairly weak advantage cards that I've drawn so far. But why am I not worried about it? Because I've got that sellback feature in Tier 2, and I also get to utilize them with the Man-Made Plague Tier 1 card. So not fretting it whatsoever. Obviously, we could use some better ones here. I'm going to go ahead and train 3 soldiers here. I didn't spend any food last turn, and so we are rocking and rolling. We've got the most soldiers on the board, which is something that Poison, I think, definitely wants to do. Because you've got that Man-Made Plague, people should be hesitant to purchase soldiers in Tier 1, because who knows when Poison is going to actually activate it. So we purchased those 3 soldiers and then fan them out over the tiles adjacent to us. I will say my strategy going into this, looking at the positioning of the tiles and squaring off against Earth, yes, there's a chance I could catch him off guard, but me attacking Earth is not the current priority. I'm seeing two really, really cheap star tiles here. I want to position myself to grab that. So notice where I've sent this soldier here. I want to try and snag this rainforest in the next turn when I've got more building materials after the termites are gone. And then I can move into the forest because I'm going to be able to beat Magma to that positioning based on how he took his first turn. All right, so we go to Earth. General moving on the short side. You can see that the Poison and Earth are already squaring off against each other on that short side there, right here. Looking really, really blurry right now. Thank God we've got those general circles underneath them to see. All right, looking at Magma's turn here. And so Channy simply bought this field here with his resources before he moved his general. Everyone's short on building materials because of those termites, so expansion is super, super slow. And then Magma is going to go ahead and buy another food tile here, purchasing that field. And look at where his general goes. He is giving me all the leverage on this north side of the board. Instead of moving into the center of the board, which you always want to do in the first few turns, he moves outward. Where next turn he could have probably just bought a soldier to buy this mountain and move into it. You want to always move in because now I've got free dibs on this star tile. Absolute mistake from Justin there. And an unfortunate weather event is drawn. It's the Lost in the Shuffle weather event, which forces every player at the table to ditch their advantage cards. And I know I've been bashing my advantage cards drawn to this point, but I'm fretting this weather event. Because I need those advantage cards to press what advantage I have in Tier 1 to be able to activate that man-made plague and then potentially sell them back in Tier 2. So I'm definitely hurt the most by this weather event. So it's certainly unfortunate. However, we also were very dismayed to see a couple of those new cards tossed in the pile. Some really, really, really interesting ones. Sadly, won't be played this game, but hopefully we'll see them in the next. All right, Lightning purchasing that mountain that is directly adjacent to the Cerberus. Buying the lake and the mountain. Got enough resources to do that. And then purchases an additional soldier on top of that. So we're already in turn 3, moving very, very quickly. As you said, all the players at this table know what they're doing. Lightning gets to draw 2 advantage cards in this turn in order to pick the better of the 2 options. That's one of their nation passives. I believe my resources are sitting at 10 and 12 for this turn. I've got a great amount to purchase that rainforest. Oh, here we go. 10 and 10 for me, 7 and 7 for Channy with the rest of his turn, and Stan at 7 and 5. His positioning on the board, termites definitely hurt him with that because he only purchased that 1 building material tile in the beginning. And so his building materials are severely hampered with that. Lightning getting to purchase a whole bunch. So me sitting at 10 and 10, I think it's a pretty clear-cut choice here. I'm not too worried about doing battle with Earth right here. Earth doesn't want to attack me because attacking they don't really have an advantage. Not to mention the fact that my passive limits his use of advantage cards. I can pop Man-Made Plague at any of these turns once I get more advantage cards in my possession. So Earth probably doesn't want to attack me here. So I think the clear-cut choice is to definitely buy this safer rainforest over here, though, just in case Earth and I do come to a head in the next few turns. So draw an advantage card, a much better advantage card, the best one of the 3 so far, Second Chance, which is a very, very powerful advantage card. I get to roll a dice twice in battle and choose the higher for its attack. And so what am I doing? I'm showing a lot of pressure right here. So I would imagine, and what I'm trying to get Earth to do is to invest a lot of resources into defending here, even if it makes them spawn a bunch of troops. They still don't want to attack me because they don't have offensive advantages there. The downside to squaring off against Earth in Tier 1 is they do have that ever-present plate tectonics ability, or tectonic plates Tier 1 ability. The great news is his general is over here. His general is not here. This is his soldier right here. The size discrepancy is, kind of throwing off the visual there. But, if this were his general, he could easily swap and then take my swamp and then be knocking on my capital right there, which would be super unfortunate. But I'm trying to get him to invest resources over here, maybe pull his general over here, because I can take advantage of that later. But my real priority is to try to get this Yeti. That's what I want to do. So I claim a rainforest over here, but then position to take the star tile the next turn, which is actually exactly what we said we were going to do. So we're going to go ahead and pop resource buildings on the rainforest in order to get building materials. And I utilize the last of my resources to get an additional soldier. So we want to keep buying soldiers. Doesn't look like we're getting that much food, but a rainforest and 2 swamps and my capital is nearly 10 food each turn. All right, general moving his general. So see this pressure that I'm putting on him right here. Not sure if this is exactly what was, forcing him to make this decision, but the general is not moving to a new tile, and that's a big deal. That means it's land that he's not acquiring, which is a very, very significant deal. Is it the pressure that I'm potentially applying right here on this short side? Not sure. All about that early positioning. It forces your opponent into certain moves. Building materials are still low because we're only in turn 3, so Cheney activates that Construction Crew Tier 1 card. He gets 2 sets of a pair of free defensive fortifications here. So didn't make him spend any resources there, unfortunately. He gets 2 free defensive fortifications. But like I said, I'm not looking to attack him anyway. And all he can do is he purchases another soldier. So this turn, he didn't buy any tiles. He didn't buy any land. And that's very, very interesting. I really don't like this play by Justin. He converts one of his 2 food-giving tiles that he owns into a volcano. Like I said, you don't need food as volcano once you get to the mid-game. But he's not at the mid-game. We are very much in the early game, so I don't like him taking away from his own food count here. You need food in order to progress. Now he's making a total of 5 food per turn, and that's going to limit his expansion. It's going to limit his potential to go to tier 2. And so, frankly, terrible play. Absolutely terrible. So all he does with that turn is he takes away food from himself and purchases a mountain. So he's getting a lot of building materials, but next to no food, which means that tier 2 advancement is going to be far away. And still putting no pressure on me at that star tile in the middle of the board. So Zach gets the scratch my back. You and one other nation receive 5 food. You may field offers before making your decision. And we actually get a nice little communication going here. So Xenair's taking a look at his numbers, willing to make a deal with someone. Although, usually when we get cards like this, we are going to see, the 2 players across from each other because they very rarely can have an impact on one another's strategy. It's likely for Zach to give me the food. That being said, Xenair's he's a different kind of being. He's a different kind of beast. And he would happily give it to Justin, even if it meant that he was going to be squaring off against Justin. He would pay the enemy if it meant he could get a deal out of it. But giving Justin food would never be the move because he just crippled his food. And that's something that Xenair's, I know, pointed out at the table as well. He crippled his food, so why would you give him additional food? That's where he's lacking right now. So really his 2 choices, I would say, would be Channy or me. Channy is obviously not positioning against him, so there's no harm in putting it to Channy, even though they're on the same shoreline. So giving it to me, the reason why he might not want to is because if he is confident that I can win in my matchup over here and that he can win in his matchup over here, the reason why he would not give it to me is if maybe he thinks that I can win my matchup faster, right? If he is funding my game, that could take away his potential for winning. So that could be what he's weighing there. But we do end up striking a bargain. Channy activates the intercepting cargo card and takes away food from me. So I just lost 5 food. And so what does that mean? Zach sees that I'm in a food deficit and exploits me for a couple of building materials so that I can rectify what I just lost. I needed to do it, though, in order to apply the pressure that I need to the next turn. So I gave Xenair's 2 building materials for that 5 food from that announced card. The new weather event, super unfortunate for Justin, is dormant. The turn that he pays for his volcano or activates the ability that gets him his volcano, volcanoes go to sleep. So he's not producing any free soldiers from it, nor is he getting resources. So he crippled his food output, and now he's not even getting the supplement of his building materials. So Justin just got a double whammy there. But self-inflicted. Let's not forget that. Absolutely self-inflicted. So Xenair's continuing to position down the shoreline. This is my favorite setup of this game. Where you've got the south side nations are squaring off against each other and the north side nations are squaring off against each other. Right? Zach is cruising down the short side. Justin is trying to cruise down the short side. And then, of course, Channy and I are doing the exact same thing. Notice Stan is a turn behind, though. Stan is a turn behind what everyone else is doing, and that's simply because of how he positioned his early game units. So Xenair's purchases that lake there. purchases the rainforest and the lake. He's getting a lot of land occupied here. So Xenares acquires that star tile here, goes to the next star tile, right? And that's a desert. It's a super cheap one. And so what I really hate about, this current standing in the game is Zach is a really big threat to acquire win conditions early. And why is that? That's because of the ineptitude. Is that a freaking word? I don't even know. Of Blue Shadow not moving to the center of the board. He let me, get positional standing on this forest for free, and he's just letting Xenares walk all over him here in the middle of the board. Not a fan of that. Look at where Xenares slyly positioning this soldier over here, positioning for this star tile right here. That's a very cheeky, if he can get that, cheap desert, get that field, that's 3 star tiles right there. Cheeky, cheeky, cheeky. So Xenares ends his turn here. Let's see what me, the developer, can do on turn 4 as the Poison Nation. Getting the Setting an Example advantage card. Fairly weak one, right? Boost my general's attack in combat. Like I said, I'm not looking to fight Earth here. Although with my 2 swamps, I could potentially threaten this mountain tile that Earth has right here. But there's no need to take those risks right now. So with second chance and Setting an Example, there's a potential that I go for that. But I'm going to go ahead and purchase that star tile forest. And I purchased the rainforest as well, that it was adjacent to the Earth Nation. I got to keep building those resources. So really, really quick turn. I'm just going to build. Just purchase those 2 tiles. I'm in no pressure of losing this star tile up here, right? Lightning could attack from 2 tiles away. I don't think he wants to do that. Maybe fearful of what advantage cards I have here. I'm not worried about him doing anything with that. And then Earth, I'm not worried about him attacking either, because they simply aren't an aggressive nation. He wants to sit behind his walls, fortify his resources, go to tier 2. But Poison is developing that mid-game combo. We're poising for that tier 2 Slamma-Jamma ability trifecta. That's what I'm going for in this next turn or 2. Strangely enough, though, I haven't purchased this tile directly adjacent to my base, so that's something that I also want to do here in the next few turns, even though the Pegasus is not on the board. So there's no threat of me dying from any shenanigans like that. Cheney purchases a resource building on that lake on that far eastern shoreline here. Purchases 3 more soldiers, gets an army on the board. If I'm not mistaken, the first army on the board. What else does he do with his general? He moves to that new mountain tile, purchases that. He now has 3 mountain tiles in his possession, which means this army has +3 added to his dice roll when it is defending. Which is why I'm not trying to attack Earth. Right? He is a formidable foe. But of course, that only applies when he is defending. So now Magma moving to the middle of the board, but still in no position to interrupt Lightning purchasing this secondary star tile. And that's unfortunate. Yeah, he's kind of sandwiched in between myself and Xenares at this point. But it's just, he was so slow to get to the middle of the board. So let's hope it doesn't bite him in this mid-game. So notice I'm the only player who's sort of fanning out both ways, which it's very difficult to, fight on 2 fronts in this game. There's very few nations that can do it, and it also requires very specific matchups, right? You will never be able to fight a war on 2 fronts against 2 aggressive nations. It simply won't happen. That being said, I've got 2 late-game nations on my side, so I'm not worried about it. However, my positioning forced Earth in this direction. And my positioning here in the middle, coupled with Lightning's positioning, forced him to sort of move into me, as opposed to them, just stalemate squaring off. So I could get attacked on both directions here, which would be a very unfortunate occurrence. Dormant just ended, and then we get the Continental Drift weather event. Very unfortunate for me. Very unfortunate. Earth, not normally aggressive, now has the potential to be aggressive. So he's got +5 on his defensive dice rolls now because of those mountains and this weather event. And now he's got +2 when he's attacking. Poison has no defensive bonuses. Not liking the look of that. I need to make something happen this turn before Earth can, slap me up. So, couple of bad weather events for me in this game so far already. How can we pull it out? Can we pull it out? Look at what Lightning is doing, purchasing that star tile just as we said. So he's got a very cheeky 2 star tiles. He never should have been able to purchase this desert. Absolutely not. That is a crime committed by Justin. Purchases a barracks as well. Purchases 3 soldiers. And if he attacks, this is a pretty confident win for him on Magma. So let's see if that's what he positions to do here. Purchases a resource building on the rainforest for building materials. And Lightning, because of their passive, can actually train 5 soldiers in turn 1. So he can get an army there. But he doesn't want to conjoin them into an army. He sends 3 of the soldiers to the Oasis. I really like this move. He says, or he sees that Justin has just allowed the middle of the board to just be free for him. So he's just going to go ahead and position for that Oasis. Look at this. The Oasis is the far landmark tile away from him, and he was just freely able to move there because Justin failed to seal off this gap right here. So Zach just expertly taking advantage of his neglectful opponent. So he goes ahead and activates Thunderclap as well. He's got several soldiers in his possession. He's got 9 soldiers in his possession. He gets 9 free building materials, and that's exactly what we said, at the beginning of this game. He doesn't necessarily need building materials tiles. He doesn't have them to begin with. So he's been investing very heavily into the food, and he still is going to get a near double-digit amount of free building materials, which allows him to purchase this mountain here. And he's still sitting at 4 and 11. So he purchased 5 soldiers this turn, couple tiles, and still has resources spare. And look at him, right? The rope is tightening around the neck of Justin. We are moving in on multiple directions here. What is Magma going to be able to do? They crippled their own economy in the beginning. And look at Lightning. I love, when I'm listening back to these recordings, I can hear what they're saying, right? Xenares, he verbalizes a lot of his moves. He doesn't verbalize this move, where he moves to the field. It's a silent gesture. It's a silent move, moving that soldier to the field. And I told you, it's very cheeky what he's doing, right? But Earth has already made it very, very clear that they're worried about me. And so this star tile, I don't think it was in any risk here. But still, I like that. And I don't know if that was an intentional move, but he doesn't say what he's doing there, which is very interesting. And Lightning does attack that field tile, the general, and 3 soldiers. So Magma has a maximum defense of 12 here with his owned volcano. No advantage cards played. Definitely favored for Lightning. Let's see what happens. So this is Justin's roll right here. He rolls a 3, which means he's sitting at a defense of a total of 9. So that's even more favored for Lightning here. 2 for the general as well. That's only 7 for him. And it's an exact tie. He's attacking with the general and 2 soldiers. They each get a value of 9, which means everyone stays where they are. So our first attempted battle yields no results. It is a stalemate. And it goes to me. I get a 3rd advantage card, and it's not the best advantage card, especially with who I'm going up against. It's the property tax card, which is going to force, one nation to pay 2 building materials for every structure that they own at the end of the turn. Earth's got bushels of building materials. So I'm not looking to hit him there. If anyone to hit, it might be Lightning. And then looking back on it, that might have been a move to do here. But I need those advantage cards, right? This weather event is putting the pressure on me. So normally I would be able to be the aggressor here, and Earth would have to sort of wait for my move. But Earth has the unique opportunity these next couple turns to aggress upon me. So I got to make something happen. I was sort of hoping to attack the Yeti this turn and perhaps utilize my abilities to stifle any retaliation from Earth. But now it's very difficult to do. So I'm sitting at 13 and 15, I believe, or maybe 15 and 15. I go ahead and I purchase 2 total defensive fortifications. I'm not worried about Lightning swinging here, right? I've got a defense of 15 plus a soldier. They would need to activate their weather event to take that, and I don't think that's a significant win for them anyway, in which I could, simply take it back. Plus, he's got Magma there, too, who could retaliate in some way. So I'm just going to put 1, and this is going to kind of throw off Magma and Lightning. And so I think that's, 3 building materials invested to put off 2 opponents, which is, very worthwhile. And then I've got a big force here. Always keeping in mind that Plate Tectonic's Tier 1 ability, though. Because if Earth gets his general over here, he can simply shift this tile around, and he could be attacking 1 tile away from my capital, which is a very, very likely possibility. So I go ahead and I purchase a soldier and then get a resource building on that field. What I'm really trying to shoot for, the magic number for poison, is to get to 20 food and 10 building materials. I've got enough building materials every turn, so I'm good there. I need to supplement the food a little bit more. I believe I'm making close to 15 at this point. I'm currently sitting at 3 food, so I'm really, really close to that 20 and 10 point where I can go tier 2, activate my abilities, and just swing very, very heavily at my opponent. So I think we were running some numbers in our head, and we realized we've got enough that we can go ahead and fortify a second defensive fortification on that star tile forest. And that's going to almost guarantee its safety up there. Right? So Earth, let's see what they do here with their weather opportunity here. It's even possible for them to attack the Yeti, which is not normally possible for Earth at this stage of the game. So Channy does go tier 2. He feels like all he needs is this army in order to attack anything that I'm dealing with. And this mountain, 2 tiles away from his capital, becomes his citadel, his fortress. And he does activate the tectonic plates. Earth is coming in! Yikes! This weather event has given him newfound confidence. So he moves his general to that mountain, activates tectonic plates, and he will be swapping that mountain with my rainforest. So what did he do? He fortified the 2 tiles that were behind it. Very, very, very smart, because obviously my soldiers are going to be, even closer to his base, and so he's fortifying it with what he thinks could be enough. Not liking my current positioning here. And like I said, I probably should have activated my abilities here. I sort of took a gamble that my brother wasn't going to activate it this turn. I was really hoping he was going to wait till the next turn to do it. The reason why I didn't want to activate Plague this turn is because Continental Drift lasts for 2 turns. So even if I activate it this turn, it's still going to appear 2 turns from now. And remember what we said at the beginning of this game. Lightning has another forced weather event that lasts for 2 turns. So I'm really not liking my position in terms of the weather of this game. And so that Plague ability, which is normally incredibly powerful and disruptive to all players on the board except for myself, is feeling incredibly weak right now. So we have an incredibly unique position. Look at here. We're each 2 tiles away from one another's base. I'm incredibly aggressive, and then he's got enhanced stats for the next couple of turns. And so we've got a race to the finish here. He activates his Piercing the Mantle tier 2 card, so he's going to double the output of one of his mountains here. And he goes ahead and with his leftover building materials fortifies 1 on his capital. And he can only attack with his army because his general already moved this turn. His army is swinging at that swamp, which does take away from my offensive capabilities. Remember, the swamps add 1 to my dice roll here. I'm feeling the pressure. I'm feeling the pressure. How is the developer, the creator of this game, going to dig himself out of this hole? And believe me, we will. So Magma gets the Boom Economy Advantage card, which was a card played in the last YouTube video. He gets a second resource building, and he puts it on his rainforest. And he is just investing all of his building materials. Remember, he doesn't have any food. He's got next to no food. So all he can do is defensive fortifications, and it's feeling super weak. All he can do is put troops in the tile. And look at where he's at. He has to be smushed in between poison, and I understand I don't have much of a force up here, and lightning. But, he's got a decent defense here, but then this field is just still, there's no defense there. Magma is just basically just not in this game right now. Not a threat to anyone. Continental Drift enters its second turn, so no new weather here. We're going to turn 6. Zach activates the Rain Dance Advantage card, which is going to trigger a new weather event. Very thankful for that. But the reason why Zach is doing it is he's worried I'm going to die. It's not because he wants me to live. It's because he needs me to survive long enough for him to win the game. So it's very, very smart. He is not doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing this because he needs Channy to slow down his potential win conditions. And we get something in the water, which means no food from lakes. And if you'll notice, most of what Zach's food production are lakes. He owns 3 lakes at this point. So he doesn't like that either. And he activates the Command Thunderstorm, his tier 1 card. Like I said, it's the reason why my Plague card is not too effective in this game. So Command Thunderstorm, the weather's been changed twice on a turn when it wasn't even supposed to be changed once by Zach himself. And so now I've got 2 more turns until the weather's changed. Of course, this one counts. But still, Earth, weaker now. Less of a threat to kill me. But still, Lightning goes to tier 2 here. He's got a ton of resources because he's just had free reign on the map. He purchases that 3rd star tile, so here, even without mentioning it, Zach owns 3 star tiles right now, so he is sitting at 1 win condition right now. Purchases a few soldiers, and Lightning now with this Command Thunderstorm has enhanced attack stats, so those defensive fortifications that Magma just put down essentially moot. But look at these enemies staring me down at my capital. Oh my gosh, they look formidable. Puts a defensive fortification on the desert, and he's going to attack the field, going for his 2nd attempt at doing so. General and 4 soldiers, each with 2 added to their dice roll. Magma with only 2 soldiers and a defensive fortification. Sends 1 soldier to the temple. I like this move. I think it's really, really cool to prioritize the elemental temple, especially when you can get some really, really powerful tier 1s back. And so now what he does is he utilizes his Thunderbolt tier 2 card and gets rid of that defensive fortification. So it's strengthened soldiers and a general against 2 soldiers. Certainly favored for Xenares here. And that field is lost. Now Magma is sitting with 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles outside of the capital owned. Meanwhile, Xenares has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tiles owned. Significant difference. Has enough building materials to fortify that tile that he just claimed. And we are knocking on the door of Justin. I have enemies 1 tile away from me. I'm 2 tiles away from their capital. And Stanny has enemies 2 tiles away from his capital. We have 3 people about to die right now. But obviously only 2 of them can. Poison goes to tier 2. I go to tier 2. I'm looking at my numbers. I can do it. Because once I go to tier 2, I can sell my advantage cards for any additional resources that I need. I can sell 1 advantage card per turn for either 5 food or 5 building materials. And I was a little under the food mark that I was going for. I need that 20 food. I activate both free barracks possible from my nation's passive and put it on the rainforest. And I can train 2 armies for a total of 10 food because of my multiplying like rats. Then I activate my social distancing tier 2 card. I can sacrifice 5 soldiers on 1 tile to eliminate 5 soldiers on another tile. And guess how many soldiers are on this swamp right here? That's right, 5. So we've been running the numbers in our head while the others have been taking their turn, and we have a very clear-cut tier 2 play to get us out of this. I sell 1 of my advantage cards for 5 additional food so that I can purchase more soldiers at the front and also at my barracks at home, because I need to take that swamp back. Because if I don't take that swamp tile back, then he can just build soldiers there next turn, and I still die. I activate Man-Made Plague by throwing away 2 more advantage cards. I just got to get it out there. I know it's not happening for another turn, at least. And so I just got to get it out there, because there's a chance I die next turn. And then I activate Over-Cultivated. And I am going to utilize that to eliminate this field and mountain structure. So what it does is it converts both of these tiles to swamps, so that when I take them, they become strengthening factors for myself, because swamps add +1 to my dice roll when I'm attacking. But what does it also do? It eliminates that Summon Citadel, which Poison has a tough time against. The key for Poison against Earth is you have to wait for them to activate Summon Citadel, and then you pop Over Cultivated in order to get rid of those defenses. So Channy's economy is definitely hurt by this. Instead of a field and a mountain, which mountains, of course, are especially beneficial for him because it's aiding his dice roll, he now has 2 swamps. I would have much rather, utilize that on 2 mountains, or maybe even gone up here and utilized it on something that, Zach was doing up here to slow down his growth into Justin's territory. But desperate times, because I needed to be able to push into his capital to put pressure on him, because I'm going to be able to relieve the pressure here at this tile, but I need to be able to put pressure on Channy as well. And so I had to do that. Unfortunate, because Xenares is sort of left out of my plan here. And so really, I just have to hope that Justin can hold off. So 3 soldiers attacking here. With my swamps owned, it is a guaranteed win unless Channy has an advantage card. But why is he not able to do anything? I'm going to go ahead and also activate the Handle with Gloves Tier 1 card, which I can make every player at the table throw away 2 advantage cards. Or I can make one player lose 4, but Channy only holds 2, so make everyone throw away 2. So I take that swamp tile back and the swamp tile directly adjacent to Channy's capital. Big swing. It looked like I was about to die, but Tier 2 gets me out of it. And is it enough to kill Channy? And can I kill Channy in time before all this mess happening up in the north happens? So a big swing for me. I'm in this game. I am in this game. But I'm sitting with 2 and 3 at the end of this turn. Very weak. And there's the chance that, Channy, just comes back and takes this swamp anyway. But if I can kill Channy in the next turn, then he's out anyway. Then all that threat is gone. Channy is Tier 2. Goes for the Eating Rocks Tier 2. He's got a lot of building materials. He's got 16 building materials at his disposal. He can train a lot of soldiers. And because he's Tier 2, he can now train an army at a barracks. So for 10 BM... And what he does is he removes that swamp that I just converted from a mountain back to a mountain with his Tier 1 ability. So I was really hoping for that swamp to stick around so I could take it, obviously enhancing my dice roll, but Channy takes that potential away. Very smart move. Adds a second defensive fortification on his capital. He's 3 soldiers at home. At his capital. Moves 2 of them to his general. And so the army that I just killed utilizing my Tier 2 ability is now in the exact same spot that it was. He is putting the pressure on that swamp tile. My advantage card is useless. Channy is going to take that confidently. Rocks a defensive fortification. So we're in almost the exact same position as last time. But it bought me enough time for us to both be 1 tile away from each other's base. Right? But I get to go first. Usually. There is a weather event that could pop up that could change that. But do you know why I know that's not a risk? It's because I know what the next weather event is. I know it's the Plague card. But Zach still has 1 turn with the Thunderstorm anyway. So we go to Justin. Let's see what he can do. Can he throw off Xenair's Onslaught into his territory? Justin, instead of investing in his defenses, is going for his economy. So he builds 2 defensive fortifications, but then 2 resource buildings on his mountain, courtesy of his Overflow Tier 1 ability. Once again, we see that he doesn't have much food. He has 11 food at the beginning of this turn. He can't afford to go Tier 2 and defend with soldiers. Xenair's does go to Tier 3, a turn 7 Tier 3 for Lightning, and he only needs it for one thing. He activates his Tier 2 Blitzkrieg Warfare, which gives him 2 barracks. He can train soldiers for them for 1 food a piece this turn. He only has 9 food left, so he's going to train almost 2 armies. But he already has 3 soldiers here, so he will have 2 armies and 2 soldiers. But he goes to Tier 3 for just 1 card. He goes there for the Never Strikes Twice. The one of 2 abilities in this game that allow the same units to attack in multiple battles per turn. So he activates Never Strikes Twice. He is swinging into Magma here. And look at, Magma only has units on this tile. This is just 2 defense fortifications and his ownership. That's 25 defense. 2 armies, and his general is a guaranteed win on it. And then they get to attack the capital behind that. And like we said, Justin says, I don't have advantage cards for this. What? And so Justin is out of the game. And like we said earlier, Zach is sitting at 1 win condition, even though he hasn't announced it. He owns 3 star tiles. Xenair's 3 games in a row wins before turn 10. He's an absolute fiend at this game. He's creating an Aether dynasty. Oh my gosh. But what do my brother and I have to do? We have to see who wins in our battle in the south. We have to see. I get to take my turn first here. We have to see who wins this. If I roll low, doesn't matter, I lose. Because I've got no defenses over there. But I can train an army for a total of 5 food because of my Tier 2 passive. I put fortifications on my capital. I've got 15 food to train 5 soldiers from that barracks at home. And I try to attack Channy here. He's got 1 soldier, 2 defense fortifications. I'm certainly favored here. And I also go ahead and activate my setting an example, which adds +5 to my general. But Channy rolls low with a 3, but it doesn't matter because I own 2 swamps at this point. So even when I roll a 2 on my general, let's see what we roll on my soldiers. I roll a 3. That's a 5 for my soldiers. That's a 7 for my army. I am swinging well over that. So Channy would have died if I had another turn to do it. But I didn't even have another win condition secured. So, Zach was the confident winner here. Did you guess it right at the first play of the game? I believe this is the second time that Xenaris has won with Lightning by taking advantage of Justin! Aether, baby. Aether. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do get involved. Join our Discord, link below in the description, as well as check out our other rounds that are published to this channel. I hope you'll check us out at empiresofaether.com as well. We are going to be the greatest game of this decade, of this century. We're changing the way that games are played. Get involved. I hope you will, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.